Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Ladies, louder. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavikacharya Astatara Satta Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavikacharya Astatara Satta Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Sai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Granthad Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Priya Mridanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Transcendental Krishna Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Good morning, dear devotees. Hare Krishna. I pray for your blessings. I can say something to please my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and all the devotees. Thank you. Well, I'll sing Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Oh Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Oh Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Kunja Bihari. Oh Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Oh Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Oh Jashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shivare. Jaya Radha Kalachanji Radha Kalachanji Radha Kalachanji Shivare. Radhe. Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So, let's see here. Let's chant some of the Mangalam Chavana prayers together. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshunu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sarpitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamayam Dadanti Swam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Satam Sajivam Sadvaita Savrabhutam Parijinam Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vichakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radha Vrindavaneshwari Veshubhanu Sutta Devi Prananami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giridhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatrivascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitadam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Well, so today we have 18 verses to chant. So I'd like to go through them as quickly as possible. So maybe with blessings of my spiritual master and all the Vaishnavas, maybe I can say a little something because it's a beautiful verse. So beginning with number 1, would you like to read?
Shukadeva Goswami said, because Bharadwaja was delivered by the Marut demigods, he was also known as Vitata. The son of Vitata was Manu, and from Manu came 5 sons, Brihat, Kshatriya, Jaya, Mahabhirya, Nara and Garga. Of these 5, the one known as Nara had a son named Sankriti.
Text 2.
O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of Pandu, Sankriti had 2 sons named Guru and Rantidev. Rantidev is famous in both this world and the next, for he is glorified not only in human society, but also in the society of the demigods.
Rantidev never endeavored to earn anything. He would enjoy whatever he got by the arrangement of providence. But when guests came, he would give them everything. Yes, he underwent considerable suffering, along with the members of his family. Indeed, he and his family members shivered for want of food and water, yet Rantidev always remained sober. Once, after fasting for 40 days, in the morning, Rantidev received some water and some foodstuff made with milk and ghee. But when he and his family were about to eat, a Brahmana guest arrived.
Because Rantidev perceived the presence of Supreme Godhead everywhere and in every living entity, he received the guest with faith and respect and gave him a share of the food. The Brahmana guest ate his share and then went away.
Text 7. Thereafter, having divided the remaining food with his relatives, Rantidev was just about to eat his own share when a Shudra guest arrived. Seeing the Shudra in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, King Rantidev gave him also a share of the food.
When the Shudra went away, another guest arrived, surrounded by dogs, and said, "O king, I and my company of dogs are very hungry. Please give us something to eat."
With great respect, King Rantadeva offered the balance of the food to the dogs and the master of the dogs, who had come as guests. The king offered them all respects and obeisances.
Thereafter, only the drinking water remained, and there was only enough to satisfy one person. But when the king was just about to drink it, a Chandala appeared and said, "O king, although I am low-born, kindly give me some drinking water."
Aggrieved at hearing the pitiable words of the poor fatigued Chandala, Maharaj Rantideva spoke to the following nectarian words.
I do not pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the 8 perfections of mystic yoga, nor for salvation from repeated birth and death. I want only to stay among all the living entities and suffer all distresses on their behalf so that they may be free from suffering.
By offering my water to maintain the life of this poor Chandala who is struggling to live, I have been freed from all hunger, thirst, fatigue, trembling of the body, moroseness, distress, lamentation, and illusion.
Having spoken thus, King Rantidev, although on the verge of death because of thirst, gave his own portion of water to the Chandal without hesitation, for the king was naturally very kind and sober.
Haribol, Ms. Prabhu, would you like to read?
Demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who can satisfy all materially ambitious men by giving them the rewards they desire, that manifested their own identities before King Rantidev, for it was they who had presented themselves as the Brahmana, Shudra, Chandala, and so on.
King Ranidi had no ambition to enjoy material benefits from the demigods. He offered them obeisances, but because he was fatually attached to Lord Vishnu Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he fixed his mind at Lord Vishnu's lotus feet.
Haribol. Hare Krishna, dear. Jai.
O Maharaj Pariksit, because King Rantidevi was a pure devotee, always Krishna conscious and free from all material desires, the Lord's illusory energy, Maya, could not exhibit herself before him. On the contrary, for him, Maya entirely vanished, exactly like a dream.
Text 18. All those who followed the principles of King Rantidev were totally favored by his mercy and became pure devotees, attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. Thus, they all became the best of yogis.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, dear devotees. So the focus verse is 12. And I'll read the Sanskrit one verse at a time, and everyone can repeat. Naikamyaneham gatim ishvarat param. Naikamaham gitam ishvarat param. Ashvadi Yukta apurna bhavanva. Ashraditi yuktam apurna bhagavam vat. Atvim prapade kila deha bhajan. Atvi papade kila deha bhajan. Antashito yena bhavante adukaha. Okay, so let's read together word for word. Na, not. Desire. Aham, I. Gatim, destination. Ishvarat, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Paraham, great. Asta Vidhi Yuktam, composed of 8 times mystic perfection. Abhidam Bhatam, cessation of repeated birth, liberation and salvation. Va, either. Aitrim, sufferings. Pabhavte, I accept. Akila Dehe Bhajam, all living entities. Atu Dasita, staying among them. Yena, by which. Bhavanti, they become. Adukaha, without distress. So translation and purport by His loving divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation, I do not pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the 8 mystic perfections of mystic yoga, nor for the salvation from repeated birth and death. I only want to stay among all those living entities and suffer all distresses on their behalf, so that they may be freed from suffering. And the purport, he references, Vasudev Datta made a similar statement to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, requesting the Lord to liberate all the living entities in his presence. Vasudev Datta submitted that if they were unfit to be liberated, he himself would take on all their sinful reactions and suffer personally so that the Lord might deliver them. A Vaishnava is therefore described as Paradukkhi, very much aggrieved by the sufferings of others, and as such, a Vaishnava engaged in activities for the real welfare of human society. It's a very short but very powerful purport. So I've kind of, it's such a beautiful purport. I've kind of let's see. Yes, there's so many things to discuss in this verse, and time is of the essence. But at any rate, in the Adi Lila 1041 and 1042, it is described how Vasudeva Datta wanted to suffer all the sinful activities of the people of the world so that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu might deliver them. He was, this is the mood of Ratidev, isn't it? He has suffered on behalf of all the people that have come to his home. So with Vasudeva Datta as well as Ratidev, this is intense, unprecedented compassion to transfer the sinful karma of the creatures so they could be freed from material suffering and liberated, isn't it? So Lord Chaitanya in the Adi 1041 and 1042, he says that he's an eternal associate, Vasudeva Datta, of Lord Chaitanya, but he says, I'm only Vasudeva Datta man. My body is only meant to please Vasudeva Datta. So he was, in these verses, he praises Haridas Thakur, and next he praises Vasudeva Datta, so pleased with his mood of total, surrender, wanting to liberate all the fallen conditioned souls and take on all their karma so that they might be freed to go back home, back to Godhead. So it's interesting because I did a little research. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1:12:24, the translation is, speaking about Maharaj Parikshit, it says, the child will almost be as good as Sri Krishna, and in following in his footsteps, in magnanimity, he will become as great as King Rantidev, and in religion, he will be like Maharaj Yati. So we all read these pastimes of Maharaj Yati, and in the end, he surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I think it was Gokulananda that mentioned that he enjoyed so much, as we know, for 1,000 years, but he was in Treta Yuga, it was 10,000 years. So it was like 10% of the time he was completely absorbed in sense gratification, but ultimately he totally surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So anyway, in 9:21:6, it says, because Rantidev perceived the presence of the Supreme Lord everywhere and in every living entity. In this verse, he's called Pandit Samadarshana. He had equal vision. So there's many purports here to read, but there just isn't the time. So I'm kind of summarizing this main point, that he had equal vision. He didn't distinguish between the Chandala or the man with the dogs and that came with his dogs to feed. He didn't make any distinguish. He could see that the Supreme Lord was situated in everyone's heart. He had equal vision in that way. And that verse is in the Bhagavad Gita also. And, in 9:21:16, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:1:11 defines pure devotional service. Anabilasita sunyam janakarmani anavartam anukuleda krishnau stila bhaktam shilanam bhakti uttama. So one should render transcendental service to the Lord, the Supreme Lord, favorably without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. And this is called pure devotional service, which we all pray at some future lifetime we will attain. Pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So also, there were other great souls, like Ambarish Maharaj, who also was I remember the song when we were kids we used to play. One of the devotees, wonderful women in Alachua, made many songs, and it was, Maharaj Ambarish is a very great king, and he is a pure devotee. So yes, he fixed his mind. He was a pure devotee, emperor of the world, completely controlled for his senses. And what did he engage in the service of Lord Krishna? In all activities, touching the Lord, seeing the deity, touching the devotee, smelling tulsi. He used all of his senses in the service of the Lord. However, he had suffering in a sense, although he was completely transcendental. But he had a challenge, isn't it? That when he was going to break a Kadasi fast, he waited, he sipped a little water, and then Durasa Muni came and was fried, right? Said, his anger roared, and he sent this demon Kriti to kill Ambarish Maharaj, who, so ultimately, the Lord Vishnu's Shushan Chakra was very powerful, and after offending the sage, he destroyed the demon, and what was the bottom line? He had to pay obeisances unto Ambarish Maharaj. And this is a story for us, that twofold, that if we offend anyone, we have to go and put our head at their lotus feet and beg their forgiveness. And also our offenses, it's Prabhupada said, any offenses that may be committed when you're chanting the holy name are eradicated. What is the solution? We have to keep chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Srila Prabhupada mentions also in the summary that King Rantidev embodied full surrender, full compassion and mercy, isn't it? And he comments, because he was completely surrendered, he was awarded the confidential service of the Lord. And actually, it was all the arrangement. It says in one of the purports, right? Krishna sent so many great souls on the part of all these people that came to beg mercy from Ratni Dev. So, so again, you know, as we surrender completely, the more we surrender, that is more related to how much compassion we have. And because he was totally surrendered, he was the embodiment of pure, unalloyed compassion and mercy. But we can understand also that the more we surrender, the more compassion manifests within our hearts and within our minds and with our attitude towards all the devotees and all the living entities, to show compassion. So also, it states in the summary that all of this was ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing happens without the hand of the Lord. And it was ordained by the Lord. Why? Also, to glorify the devotees, his devotee, right? And show how tolerant a devotee is, like Ranti Dev, in rendering devotional service. So in this way, you know, he wanted to glorify his devotees. So, you know, I'd like to put some questions forth to the assembled devotees. I would like to ask you, how many of you have suffered? Raise of hands. How many have experienced suffering and wish they didn't have that feeling? Isn't it? Okay, so, sorry, excuse me. How many have seen other people suffering and felt thankful that it wasn't them, thank their lucky stars and that it wasn't them? Anyone? And how many saw others suffering and felt some empathy and compassion? Like Ranti Dev. And how many who see someone suffering wish they could take the suffering from them? Is it? So you all are great souls. If you feel that you can, you know, see someone suffering and take on their suffering, you have the mood of the great soul Ranti Dev. That's a rare soul that would say, I see someone suffering and I'm going to take their suffering on them. This is the mood of Vasudev Dutt, and this is the mood of Ranti Dev. So, Gokulananda, you said you take on the suffering of everyone. That's magnanimous. Tell me about that.
Not for everyone. It depends on the person.
Okay. Well, he made no distinction, did he, Ranti Dev? He, from the lowest of the low, he extended his mercy. Now, it's very interesting because, again, in the Madhya Leela 15:158, when Lord Chaitanya began to speak to Vasudev Datta, he became very embarrassed and very surrendered. It was hard for him to hear the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, glorifying him. He was embarrassed and humbled. But again, he requested to take on the sufferings of all the conditioned souls. Let me take on their suffering, even if they're unfit, because their sufferings interferes what? With their devotional service, with their possibility to be liberated and go back to Godhead. So in that way, he assumed that mood. Now, who else? It's described that Vasudev Datta, somewhere in the Bhagavatam and in the CC, I remember reading, is an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. And what was Prahlad Maharaj's mood? Anyone at the mic want to just share? Yes? You want to share the mood of Prahlad Maharaj? Was it similar to Ranti Dev?
Yeah, he desired well for everyone. He prayed for everybody.
He prayed for everyone. And he said he didn't want to leave until he could extend his mercy and compassion, his universal love to all conditioned souls, right? So we can see that mood is also evident in Vasudev Datta. So we know that Ranti Dev had been fasting for not a week, not 2 weeks, not even 3 weeks, but 40 days he fasted. Because why? Every time someone came, he was ready to have his meal and cooked in ghee and nice warm milk. Every time this happened, someone would come and beg mercy for him. So he gave everything. And at the end, he was trembling. He was so aggrieved. And also his whole family was also suffering, right? They were also had not taken any foodstuffs at all for 40 days, no water, nothing. His family members also were in that same situation. But what does that mean? Does that mean that, like, he was disregarding his family? They were like a doormat? They were not honored? No, actually, they were inspired by his renunciation, by his mercy, by his compassion, by his detachment and total surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they assumed that mood, not in anger, but in being inspired by the mood of their husband. So, he still makes the prayer, feeling aggrieved for the suffering and those who would come again and again. And how many of us could be so compassionate? How many of us could be so compassionate? Only great souls, pure devotees, like Prahlad Maharaj, like Amarish Maharaj, and like Ranti Dev, like Vasudev Dutt, these great pure souls, they can do like this. And we can only pray to have a little pinprick of their surrender and their compassion and their love and their mercy. So, in this regard, I was doing a little research, and I don't know how this came up in my consciousness and in my heart, but as an example of extreme compassion, extreme, unalloyed compassion, is His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. So, Maharaj passed away, I think it was June 2005, and he was riddled with cancer, and in the end, it was almost insurmountable, the pain that he had. However, what was his mood? What was his mood? He saw his cancer as a blessing. Yeah, he did. He explained that if his suffering could be a source of inspiration and the devotees would feel uplifted, that was his joy. That was his joy. That was his mood all throughout his preaching mission. And at the last times of his life, that was his mood. And in the final day, when he was like emancipated, he was just, Radhanath Maharaj, as you all may remember, went there and stayed with him. And I remember Nrsingadev came in, he said, now I will leave. But that was not Krishna's arrangement at all for him. And so, in his final day, he wanted the devotees to be so inspired. He was like emaciated, but he was in complete transcendental consciousness. And his mood was, again, to bring joy and inspire the devotees. So when he left, when he passed, he had written letters to Guru Kulis and other devotees that were suffering. And as a result of his unlimited mercy and compassion, so many people, Guru Kulis that were damaged, that had been abused, that had suffered, came back into the fold, chanting Hare Krishna. And many devotees who had left the movement came back. And again, and so this is an intimate mood of a pure devotee, right? And it's natural even for us, for conditioned souls, to practice this mood of compassion, right? And, in Kali Yuga, we see so much suffering, abominable suffering, incredible suffering all over the world. Sufferings of the body, people starving all over the world, wars, the pains of the body and mind, adhyatmik, adibodhik, adidaivic. These are all sufferings that are, here in this Kali Yuga world to the max of degree, isn't it? And so, so many, troubles, even within the lives of devotees, pains in the body and the mind. And what about relationship challenges and sufferings, right? And so we're not surprised because it's Kali Yuga. It's the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So these things are manifest in Kali Yuga. This, suffering so abominable. It can be at what? What does suffering give us? What is the benefit of suffering? Anyone want to comment? Have the mic? Anyone? Is there any benefit for suffering? Prabhu?
So it burns your karma when you suffer, I believe.
It cleanses your karma.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, dear.
It's a mercy from Krishna to remind us this is a temporary suffering miserable place, so we shouldn't be here. Should go back
Okay,
to Godhead.
very nice. Very, very nice. Anyone? Anyone else? Yes.
It gives us an opportunity to remember Krishna, because when we're comfortable and we become complacent and we become attached to our situation, but when we are suffering, then we're reminded, to Mataji's point, that this place is not where we're supposed to be and there's no actual joy here.
Thank you very much. Yes, Prabhu. Nandabraj.
As mentioned, suffering allows us to become completely dependent on Krishna. And then through that dependency, we get that more closer to Krishna. We see him work in our life, and we can share that with others. There's other people that are going through sufferings like we are. And when we go through it with such a connection with the Lord that helps us grow, we can share that with others and be a source of inspiration like these wonderful devotees you're talking about.
Thank you very much. Yes. Haribo. Ishwar Bhagavan Prabhu.
Suffering can help us change our behavior towards it. Like if you get pulled over for going too fast in a school zone, you get
Bam.
a big fine, possibility of losing your license. You could, you have to go, if you keep on doing it, then, then they keep on pulling you over and they just keep on more fines and traffic class and
when are we going to learn?
You say, yeah, you're like, well, and then you see that sign that says 20 miles per hour during school zone and it's flashing. Next time, you're ready to slow down.
Okay, very nice. Thank you. Okay, Prabhu?
To me, suffering reminds me that I'm not the controller. Krishna is the controller. This world is so temporary, and I need to stop postponing my surrender.
Very nice. So many nice realizations. Thank you, dear devotees. Very nice. So my realization about suffering is that it can be a catalyst to engage in devotional service more and more, with more focus, more determination. Yes, that's my realization about suffering, that it is a catalyst to push us to devotional service. That's our compassion, really, and our compassion is to go, as it says in the final line of this purport that I read, is to go out and distribute that compassion to as many souls as we can touch. The gift of love that we have all experienced in bhakti, in devotional service to Krishna. We can go out, we can chant the holy name in the streets, we can go and distribute books. Yes. In 112, I think I mentioned this, Maharajit was good as the Supreme Lord Krishna, and by following in his footsteps, we can get Krishna's mercy also. We may not be as magnanimous as Vasudev Dutt or Prahlad Maharaj or Ranti Dev, but we can follow in their footsteps. We can strive to imbibe their mood of mercy and compassion. And in the end of that whole purport, that's the bottom line, that we want to extend that mercy to others. And so, suffering is part of this material world. It's hard to get rid of it. It's hard to transcend suffering. But it can be an impetus to come closer and closer to Krishna. And that was my experience when I went through all this cancer for a year. Different challenge, from chemo to surgery to radiation. It was a year's worth. And it was suffering. There's no question about it. It was intense. But it was an impetus for me to come closer to Krishna, to read much more every day, reading, hearing lectures. That's the most beneficial thing in this age, it says. Prabhupada says to hear is so powerful. That's example. If someone's breaking into your house, you might not see them, but if you hear them, you can be saved. So with that in mind, there's so many different purports to talk about, and I just want to close with this. That it's also in 221, and it's also in the Bhagavad Gita 221, and it's the same that's in the Srimad Bhagavatam 9:4-18-20, that a devotee and an emperor knows how to perfectly control their senses. So that's the art, isn't it? To control our senses. And what is the most powerful sense? What is that most powerful sense? The mind, the sixth sense. Yes, it pulls. It does. And so somehow or another, Prabhupada has given us the formula to control our mind and senses. One thing he said was just neglect. Just neglect the mind. I like that. So I strive to do that when I'm chanting my rounds. Just anytime my mind starts to waver, I just try to neglect and chant a little louder. I always chant listening to my spiritual master chant japa, Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Sometimes I listen to Srila Prabhupada chanting japa. It's very powerful for me, helps me to control my mind. So, in the final comment, I just wanted to say, and I'd like to open it up to discussion, by satisfying great souls, one receives the blessings and success of one's endeavors. So, some of the great souls, there's so many, Diksha and Shiksha gurus, but my realization when I read this was, we must satisfy the spiritual master. We have to follow his instructions and hold them tightly within our heart. And I have, because pleasing great souls is the easiest way to attain the grace of God. Isn't it? Yes. God can, we see sometimes the wrath of God. He can annihilate all these worlds. He kills the demons. He shows his prowess. But God's grace, to me, is the most wonderful benediction that Krishna gives us. And he gives us the grace through these great souls, which are so many. We have the appearance of Radhanath Maharaj coming up, another on the 13th, such an empowered great soul. And I just saw Hanumat Prasad's going to be here on the 21st, another great soul. So, yes, we pray for their blessings and their mercy to help us on our path as we strive to purify our heart and soul, chanting the holy name. So I just like some comments from the devotees, some corrections, some insights, if anyone wants to share. Prabhuji.
Thank you for the wonderful class. It was a reminder call. I just remembered a statement by Radhana Swami. He said, miseries are inevitable, but suffering is optional. So miseries means threefold miseries. And they are inevitable because we are living in Dukhalayam, right? This is the place of misery. But suffering is optional for the devotees when they take shelter of Krishna, then that suffering they dodge. But I was also thinking Uttamadhikari, right? How in this world they're able to see when, so to say, people are enjoying, they're clearly able to see that that is also suffering. Like Prabhupada, I don't remember exactly where, but they were surfing in the sea, and he said, they're not surfing, they're not the surfers, they're sufferers, something like that. And just, right. So to say, they were enjoying, but then the Uttamadhikari, or Prabhupada is even above Uttamadhikari. It will be wrong to say that he's Uttamadhikari. He's beyond. But devotees of that stature, they can see even the enjoyment is suffering here in this world.
Very nice.
And I was also thinking about looking at, like, if when I lived in the ashram, I used to take an excuse if there was anything wrong with the body, okay, I can attend Mangalarti, I can go out on Harinam because, I'm under the weather or whatever. But look at the great souls, the difference here, like Jayapataka Swami, right? He has every excuse.
That's right.
Not to travel, not to do, the services that he's been doing. Look at Srila Prabhupada himself, with 2 heart attacks. He had every excuse to go back. So that clearly shows the difference in the level of consciousness. They have genuine compassion.
Yes.
Like when you asked, one of the questions was, do you feel like taking on other people's miseries?
That's right.
I said, I'm selective, only with those who are near ones and dear ones. But this compassion is extended to everyone.
Yes.
In case of Uttamadhikaris and those who are above.
Unlimited.
That's what I was thinking.
You mentioned Srila Prabhupada, and we just, I just were reading the Leelamrita again and just finished the first volume, which is A Life in Preparation. And in this volume, it is just so profound and so amazing, the unbelievable mercy, compassion, and determination Srila Prabhupada had. And when he was trying to print the first volume of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he would, basically, walk for miles, arrange the paper, not eat anything, not drink anything, and go to the printer, and the printer would say, Swamiji, have you had any breakfast? And he would say no, over and over again. Because he was so determined from the very beginning instruction of his spiritual master, and then in 1936 again, go. He said, he wrote, Maharaj, you have so many disciples, and they're all brahmacharis, they're all sannyasis. I'm simply a householder. What can I do? He wrote this letter, and he responded in 1936, you can go, again, because you have the English language, you can go and to the West, preach this all over. And he held that. He did business one place after another, from Bombay to Lucknow to Allahabad, everywhere, and bam, Krishna had his for 20 years. And Krishna had his plan, one after another, everything failed. And I think he was in either Bombay or Lucknow, and he heard that in Allahabad, someone had broken and stolen everything. He was penniless, Prabhupada. It's described over and over again. He was penniless. He wouldn't hardly ate because he was so fixed. That meditation from the very first time he met his spiritual master stayed within his heart for all of those years. And then, also what amazing compassion and determination. It describes how Srila Prabhupada wrote letters to the top government offices and officials, and to get help for printing his Bhagavatam, and no response. But he wasn't deterred. He wasn't depressed. He wasn't, oh gosh, why is this happening? Why me? No. He had fixed determination in his heart and in mind. This meditation stayed with him. And then in the end, somehow or another, he met a Mr. Agarwal. And he said, I have a son in the States. And Swamiji said, perhaps he could help me in a humble way to come to the States. And it was just like a passing thing. And somehow or another, he got a notice from the government office that he had he'd been approved as for a sponsor to go to the U.S. He said, who is this? And it was his son in Butler, Pennsylvania. And ultimately, he implored and begged and pleaded with Murari Gupta, not Murari Gupta, the Sumati Murari for this the airship, and ultimately he gets passage. She refuses, and he has so much determination. Oh, you are too old, Swamiji. You will die there. Look at you. Why don't you stay here and preach in India? And so ultimately, he had turned 70 years old before he stepped on that Jaladuta. And she said she put him on the Jaladuta because she had all kinds of vegetables and food put on for him so that he would be, it was a smaller boat, the Jaladuta. So, this is fixed determination and fixed compassion, unlimited compassion he had. And look what he did. They said, "Oh no, Swamiji, they won't greet you. You won't be appreciated by these Westerners." And how everything happened, right? He came at the perfect time when all the hippies were rejecting everything material. They were rejecting their parents' standards of materialistic life. And the rest is history. And it was predicted, wasn't it? His father brought an astrologer when he was just a few weeks old, and he was predicted that at 70, he will go abroad and he will open 108 temples. And indeed, that came to pass. So the mercy of Srila Prabhupada is unlimited. He underwent, prior to even getting, on that boat, he had suffered, really. But he was totally transcendental. That suffering was not a deterrent. It was challenging, but it was not a deterrent. He continued and continued. And we are blessed because he came to the West. This temple, nothing would exist if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada's mercy. So, I guess, if anyone has any other comments? Yes, Prabhuji.
Sometimes, thank you so much, Mati, for the wonderful class. Sometimes when I hear the glories of our pure devotees in the Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada, as you were sharing, it's almost inspiring, but also at times discouraging, or like it makes you introspect. Am I even remotely a devotee?
Yes.
To take on suffering for the living entities, everyone, whether you know them or not, just unlimited compassion. And I had come across this. I just wanted to share. It's not a question.
Please.
It's a little bit of a. I found this in Prabhupada's purport. So in the 12th chapter, when Krishna is describing the qualities of all the Vaishnavas, the qualities of a devotee that are very dear to him, friend of everybody, equipoise in distress, and various nice qualities. And this is the purport of chapter 12, verses 18 and 19. And at the end, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that
these are the disciples of Srila Prabhupada.
This is Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm?
This is Gita. Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, yes. Okay, 12th chapter of the Gita, sorry.
Yeah, 12th chapter, and Prabhupada is saying, one who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop these good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engagement in Krishna consciousness and devotional service automatically helps him develop them. So this is a takeaway for me that I remember reading this just to remind me that it's not that we should, Ranti Dev, the takeaway is not, now I should start giving everything away to whoever comes across and extraneously try to develop such compassion, falsely develop it, but rather just make sure that a reminder to intensely follow our own devotional process and service, and performing and reading and chanting and doing Shravanam Kirtan sincerely, and hopefully by cleansing and cleaning that conditioning, that these qualifications will develop automatically in the heart and in our behavior.
Yes, of course. It's a process. Prabhupada's given us a process, and as determined we are to follow that process, the results will come. And without sadhu sangha, we're all, bereft. We need the examples of all the devotees, the love and compassion of all the devotees. And when before it got really cold, I was going down to do book distribution and Harinam, down by Traders on Lower Greenville. And the last time we were there was a devotee there. I was so impressed by, he was, I don't dress in a sari or tilak. I go, I might wear a long skirt or pants with a long top or chador or something. But this devotee was with full, I forget his name, full, dhoti, tilak, and he was just, so enthusiastic. He was going to the cars. He was trying to stop the cars to distribute books and waving, and he was so excited. And it was very enlivening for me. And I was, distributing books, and connecting. I like to connect with the people, find out a little about them when I distribute books. But the whole, I kept joking with him. People would come by and I'd look at him. I said, "Do you know what they said?" And he said, "Yeah." "What did they say?" "I'm good. I'm good." Over and over again, "I'm good." Are they good? They are not good. They are not at all good. But, and then you have some people that come and they're very eager to take a book. And how many people say, "Oh, Kalachandji's. I've been to Kalachandji's." A blessing. It's a blessing. So anyway, thank you very much for your kindness and your attention and your blessings. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantagaudiya Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You want to put It's such a nice thing. Yeah, because people, I like to distribute books,